Things have been sort of stagnant here in Hancock County for the last few years, and having been involved a number of years ago with the development effort, I just think we can do a lot better. The other thing that's really gotten me a little upset is that particularly some of the commissioners and some of the elected officials are just taking this attitude of doom and gloom and everything's bad and we got to cut police and fire and so forth. And I just think that's the worst thing you can do when you're trying to attract business and industry to the community. So I just feel that my background and experience over the last 30 years is such that we can maybe turn things around a little bit. There's an issue out there that who takes over the flood mitigation once the mitigation group steps aside at the end of this year. My own personal feeling is that we're in Hancock County, we got to control our own destiny, and I think there are people here, our county engineer, our city engineer, a lot of people who have put a lot of effort into the flood mitigation issue so far, and that could be an asset as we move forward. So I think at this point, the commissioners should take charge of that. The priority for the county certainly has to be safety and security, and working with the sheriff and the judges and so forth to make sure that we're allocating enough funds to keep the county secure. The whole secret to a community's growth is to grow as a community by bringing new companies and new jobs into the community. When you do that, you bring new taxes in, and so as a result, your tax base increases, but you don't have to go to the people and increase the rates. One of the things that really bothers me in terms of the county, in terms of their sources of revenue, one of their main sources of revenue is the sales tax. I don't know if you've looked at the vacancies in the retail sector, both at the mall and in other parts of the community, and I would suspect there's probably well over 1 million square feet of retail space that's available, and there's nobody in there. Now, if we could put people in those stores or in those buildings to sell stuff, guess what? They're going to charge people a sales tax, and as a result of that, our revenue would increase by increasing the base and not the rate. So you wouldn't have to go and raise your sales tax to 6.5 or 6 3/4 or wherever. This is the county seat, okay? I have a little bit of a problem with the county moving all over the place. Now they're going to purchase the building where Cafe Maria is, and then in 4 or 5 years they're going to hopefully move to the central school. But in the meantime, they've got 3 buildings right next to the courthouse that are sitting vacant that probably could have been rehabilitated for $500,000 or $1 million, okay? So there's got to be a consistency in terms of where the county stands on the downtown, where the city stands on the downtown, and what collectively we can do. It would seem to me that if the county owns property around the courthouse, which they do, they should make every effort to either build there, take the buildings they have and refurbish them, and so keep it convenient. So when you come into the courthouse, you don't got to walk 2 blocks down the street to see the prosecutor or whatever. Okay? Purchasing a building when you already have buildings, and then eventually are going to move out of it in 4 or 5 years, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They should just continue to lease there, it would seem to me. And when they're leasing a building from a private individual, that individual's paying taxes. If they buy it as a county, then no taxes are paid. I happen to look at the tax duplicate, which anybody could do, and the current owner's paying about $15,000 a year in property taxes. When it's sold to the county, that's $15,000 gone. For economic development to work, and I've taken this message to other counties too, that you've got to have a public-private partnership. If government wants to do the development by themselves, it just doesn't work, okay? You have to have the private sector involved. So you need that partnership, if you will. And if you have that partnership, certainly the governments, the cities, the counties, the townships, have an important role to play in that. I think there's a lot of opportunities to attract more retail to the community. Bringing new industry, new jobs. I think this community is set up for white-collar jobs. 20 years ago, we didn't have the housing, we didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have today that I think we can go after now. So I'm excited about that. 1/3 of our roads were in bad shape, but I haven't seen any effort to really address that, unless they're thinking about raising the taxes, which I think is a silly thing to do. You know, again, if you're bringing trucking companies and more jobs into the community, you're going to have more vehicles registered here, and you're going to get more money in the state license and gasoline tax, because that's how it's allocated based on where you're registering your vehicles. I think what you've got to do is, again, it gets back to when you create jobs and development and tax base, those problems will take care of themselves. I would not be an advocate of raising the license fees or anything like that at this point, because you know, as I've been walking around the county in the last few weeks, people are just getting hit from all angles, from the federal government to the state government, and they take their frustrations out maybe at the local level, but I think a lot of it is justified. Politicians, public officials seem to think that the average Joe out there working just has a pocketbook that never ends, and I think you got to try to live within your means. There are a lot of people in this county doing that, and as public officials, we've got to do that too. And so if you got to make some of those tough decisions to make cuts in a prioritized fashion, then you got to do it. I believe that if a community has a lot to offer, and we do here in Hancock County, you don't got to give the kids away with the bathwater. It's sort of interesting. Nobody believes this, but it's true. When we built Tall Timbers, not one company that located in Tall Timbers received any form of tax abatement. We didn't seek a lot of state or federal grants. We would go to the state for tax credits where they were applicable, okay? And as a result of that, the community grew, our tax base grew, and there was a lot of new jobs created that certainly helped the city income tax that was growing over those 14 years at about 6% a year, which was a good increase, which again allowed us to keep that income tax at 1%, which really put us way below a lot of communities around us who were at 1.5% to 2.25%. So I believe you've got to look at the community from a standpoint. We've got a lot to offer: great workforce, good quality of life, low crime. Those are the kind of things you market, and if you really believe in that, then good companies will come here. The companies that want you to give them everything, I'm not sure what their long-term future or goal is for the community. And I take some pride in the fact that all the companies that we brought in here, at least when I was in the development department, are still here today, and they're growing. Most of them have become good corporate citizens in terms of supporting things like United Way and the University of Findlay and some of those other things. So that's sort of the attitude I take, is you know, if you got something good, let's market it as something good, and let's not take a position that we need to give you the moon to get you to locate here, because the good companies will come here, and I'm absolutely convinced of that. And I really feel now that we have a great opportunity to bring some more white-collar jobs into the community if we can all pull together and go in the same direction. There doesn't seem to be a cohesive plan to deal with the downtown. From a county's perspective, I think we've got to look at that and find the best alternative, and then follow that, and then work that with the private sector people down there who want to see the downtown grow. And in doing that, and then aggressively market that downtown to new companies to come in. I really believe if you can bring 100 to 200 white-collar jobs into the downtown area, then you're going to see some of these second stories turn into apartments. You're going to see more activity down there. The commissioner has a lot of responsibilities, but the chief one being to make sure the budget is balanced, and when you're having a shortfall in revenue, to try to figure out how we can bring that revenue in without increasing our taxes.